Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. Join me on a voyage of discovery as we uncover and document the greatest discoveries of all time. Smash that sub like dynamite. Ring that bell like it's the last bell you'll ever ring. And join me.
Well, hello everyone, and truly a stunning development in our research. We are going to basically try to interpret some of the things on this idol. It is called the Shigir Idol from Siberia. 11,000 years old. We can read this. We can interpret this. This is an ancient script found in Asia. This is a stunning video. This is quite not too hard to read when you have the key, which is from an anthropology journal. The Dogon of North Africa happened to use a very similar code to this and to what you find in Irish tombs. And as a preliminary, before we get into interpreting that idol and seeing what it has to say to us, a preliminary, because we need to know about base 20. This is a pre-Diluvian number system of world humanity. It's used by the Dogon. And the Dogon of North Africa, basically they would scroll this on their temples and they would count 20-year periods. On this side we have 20s. If you count the right-hand side, you triple the 20. That will be in a video coming up about darts. And the Dogon are from North Africa. This is part of their ancient tradition. It's part of an African tradition. This is the Sigui Lugu, which means calculation of the Sigi and of the Sigui. And Lugu, that sounds familiar. Lugu is logo in Latin. Think, logic. So this may have been from a Latin-speaking tribe which then ventured into Central Africa. Taking their vigesimal system with them, their base 20 system, and the implications are astounding. Absolutely astounding. This is from Nauf. Cheers to Anthony Murray, hope he doesn't mind. I counted the number of beams here in this sundial. 20. It's like a dartboard. This is the oldest dartboard. 20. And of course the language of that idol is in Ogham. The language is Ogham. And this is an ancient Irish language. And we're going deep here, deeper than anyone can envisage for now, except to viewers of my channel who have seen some of the videos last year, which I will link at the end. So last year I made a video saying, oh, look at that. This is not really suited for carving in stone, which is the only way in which Ogham survives. But it is very suitable for stringing up on a string, tying knots. These are knots and strings going out different directions, and hence we have the key to basically the quipu of the Peruvians. And of course, the quipu, as we pointed out in other videos, the Peruvians, as we pointed out, have Irish architecture at Machu Picchu. Very strange. So we suggested this was an ancient Irish monastery because the Irish loved to travel and they would set up monasteries in such locations of astounding natural beauty as they do in Ireland. Ogham is essentially the lingo that we see on the Shigir Idol. You see, you look at a line going through the middle and you see lines across, lines like this, lines going up, just like we see here. And you'll say, Charles, how did the Irish invent this language if it was from Siberia 11,000 years ago? Well, according to one Irish tradition, they didn't invent the language. And this is where it gets deep. Because this isn't just a language for man, but a language for computation. So you see, according to an ancient Irish legend, the Irish were living in Central Asia, so they're presumably talking about the Aryan tribe, the Era tribe, the Iranian tribe. And they were exploring at the ruins of Babel. And they found this language scrawled on the ruins of the Tower of Babel, and they brought it back to Ireland. So this is a language from Central Asia, and I believe it is the same language as found here on the Shigir Idol. And this is quite stunning because I was, after I made my video last year saying that this is actually the Quipu, and check my website, I've written an article you can just read about the Quipu and about this. After I made that video, I showed it to a friend who happens to be a computer science professor at a leading university here in this city. And he said, "Charles, there's something else you should know. You see, this isn't just this is no alphabet. This is a language for computers, for computation. This is a perfect language for computers." And I thought, wow, that's interesting. And I'll link that video at the end so you can watch that one and see exactly why that is the case. And you're going to say, Charlie, if this is an ancient computer language, if this is pre-Diluvian, 11,000 years old, are you starting to see the implications of this? Because this means we're looking at an ancient computational language which was survived after some catastrophe into the Stone Ages. And you're going to say, Charlie, why the hell do we need ancient computers? Well, I'll just bring up Robert Temple's website. Hope he doesn't mind. That's one of my favourite books on Egypt. But he has made some exciting discoveries about Egypt, such as ancient mathematical codes. And one of his discoveries was that if you find one of these designs, these mathematical codes, it will prevent you from finding out about the other designs through a series of clever little mathematical traps. And there are many designs. And you see, it's not just these are Robert Temple's designs, but there are many mathematical array, and there's an array of mathematical designs you can plug into Giza. There are hundreds. Robert Temple has come up with several, but there are hundreds. So what you need to know is that this, I think, and it could be wrong, was done on a computer. According to Arab legends, all the knowledge of the world was somehow programmed into the Great Pyramid. What the hell does that mean? The only way you could somehow do that was to use a computer, and then you unscramble the code with a series of integers which would be found using one of these maps in order to decipher all the ancient knowledge which has been programmed in. It's like a Fourier transform. You need the key to unglue, to decode, to solve the equation, to find all the knowledge of the world. So, was this an ancient pre-Diluvian computer language? Now, it is a base 20 language. Now, we find base 20 all over the world, and I'm going to prove that because it's so important. Now, if you look at French numbers, French is a very interesting language. We have numbers which go up to 20. That we say after 10, 10, we say 10, 1, 10, 2, 10, 3. It's like English. But then we get to 20, 20, and it sort of starts again. It resets, 20, But when we get to 80, something really weird happens. We say 4 20s, 80 is 80. And instead of saying 90, we say 97. 4 20s, 10 and 7. 98, 99. What the heck is going on? It's a base 20 system. Same in Welsh. The Welsh use base 20. So if you look at, so do we see the same thing in Welsh? And we go to 80 and something interesting happens. 420. Pedwar ugain. 420. So this is not from the Romans. The French didn't get this from the Romans because in Romans it's octaginta. It's just a standard base 10 Indo-European system. This was something used, I think, by the Beaker culture. This was their number system. And these people were obviously a seafaring people because this is a massive trading coast which unified their empire. And you see that their monuments are where the coastline is, and these are the Stonehenge builders. These must have been a base 20 civilization. And the Basques also used this. If you look up vigesimal, which is base 20, this was used in Africa, the Americas, Asia, Oceania, Europe. It goes on and on. And this system is unbelievable because this system, I think, was the ancient pre-Diluvian, pre-catastrophe, possibly computational number system. So in Oceania, the Maori used it. And as we know, there are theories about the Maoris being ancient Celts, ancient redheads. It's used in Asia, in Bhutan. Powers of 20, 400, 8,000, 160,000. India, Santali, 50 is expressed by the phrase bar isi gal, literally 220, 10. In East Asia, the Ainu language, these are the European-like people in Japan, use a counting system based on the number 20. So they say Topnep is 20, Wampe etu Hotnep, 10 more until 220s is 30. 220s is 40, 520s is 100. This is unbelievable. In Europe, as I showed, it's used in France. Danish, Breton, Welsh, Scottish Gaelic, who are of course the Irish, the Albanian language, the Georgian language, the Basque language. It's used as a base number for numbers up to 100. For words of 40, 60, 80 mean 2 score, 3 score, and 4 score respectively. And let's not forget 3 score and 10, the age of man. That's interesting. That'll come up soon, later in the video. The age of man in England. 20 is used in the Slovenian language. 60 is expressed as 320s. In the British currency system, there were 20 shillings to the pound. So this is an ancient, worldwide number system. It's in the Gettysburg Address, of course. That was looking at Old English texts, being inspired by those texts, and it just goes on. We don't need to cover all that. So let's get into that and look at our key. Let's get back to that incredible Shigir Idol. So here is the OM, and comparing the OM with the Shigir, you see that the language is just so very similar. It's so similar. But let's just look at Mr. Shigir. So firstly, the ribs. The ribs are critical in this investigation. If you ignore the top line here, and you ignore the bottom line there, which are sort of like a border, there are 24, just as we have 24 ribs. However, there should be 12 on each side, not 24 lines running across. I find that very interesting. Here there's 12 on each side, which is a little bit better, a better way of depicting it. And of course, 24 ribs, take away 1. You have 23, double it, 46. The number of chromosomes in the human body, I think the Bible is talking about chromosomes rather than ribs. Take one of Adam's chromosomes and clone Eve. So possibly here, the veneration of the ribs. Why are the ribs shown and not any other body feature except for the face? Just the ribs are what's important. We don't have weird squiggles like this running through our legs. This is interesting. So the ribs are critical. So that means the Bible story of Adam and Eve goes back to 11,000 BC. Fascinating, isn't it? Now, what I really wanted to draw your attention to was the way the Dogon, and this is from an article, Appendix 1 of the Cirrus Mystery. Basically, what Robert Temple did was he got the article called A Sudanese Cirrus System translated into English, and he's reproduced it in Appendix 1 by M. Grioli and G. Dieterlin. And as I mentioned, they had this base 20 counting system using zigzags. Now, if you take the right-hand side, you triple it. If you take the left-hand side, it's 20s. So we can actually use this. Now, you may recall in an earlier video, we said this is Asgard. This is Midgard. There's another face in the middle. And there's a face down the bottom, the giant. So this face is the Midgard face, the human. And the human is the one with these clearly defined squiggles. So if we just count it up using the Dogon system, 20, 20, 20, and 10. That is 70. They're counting in 20s. This is the age of Midgard, the human of Midgard. This is the god, possibly, who used the ribs, whose ribs were used. The human doesn't have the ribs. The god has the ribs. Was Adam a god? Was Adam a fallen astronaut? That's an interesting proposition. Disobeyed the gods, fell down to earth. That's an interesting proposition. And that is all that I know how to read on this idol. But, as I've shown you, this is a string language. This can be interpreted using Irish Ogham, which is not Irish at all, but worldwide. And this is possibly an ancient computational language as well. I hope you have enjoyed this video. There are implications beyond anything which will be coming up in future videos based on this discovery.